somebody's blood pressure goes high, we say, oh, here, take this pill. And that's preventive health care. Instead of like stepping back to find out why it's high in the first place and fixing that and all the inflammation that undergoes stuff. Because the issue is by the time you start having symptoms, more than 80% of the damage has already been done. So trying to come back from that is a little bit difficult.
Welcome to the My Future Business Show, where we get you in front of your best audience and keep you there. Not only are we interviewing the biggest names in business to help you become even more successful, we're inviting you to book your spot on the show to help you grow your business. So at the end of the call, make sure you fill in the interview application form at myfuturebusiness.com/interviews. Hi, and welcome back to the My Future Business Show. My name's Rick Nusky. I'm the host of this wonderful show, and just a moment of pause to thank you so very much for all your wonderful, warm feedback, either as a guest or an audience listener. The feedback is just making this show incredibly humbling for me as your host, so thank you so very much. Now on today's show, I'm with the wonderful Kristy Russ. How are you, Kristy?
I'm very well, thank you.
Now we've been talking a little bit about just offline about energy levels and how to live a better life, and we're going to be touching base on 5 core things that people need to do to improve their lifestyle. And you have a very interesting background, which I'd love to learn more about. And but before we do that, Kristy, I always love to spend time learning a little bit more about you. Now I know that you enjoy sports. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I have always been that way. I've been athletic. I played all the school sports when I was growing up and stuff. I still play basketball if it gets started again, because COVID has sort of made that go away for now. But love it. And it'll be a sad day if I ever have to, when I have to retire. I know I can't play until I'm 100, but So but it's a competitive league, so it works out well.
Fantastic. Now I know that you have 2 children who happen to know more than you do about everything in the world, as do I.
Oh, of course.
I love that. I love the fact that you have a relationship with your children. Do you still hang out with them? What does your family life look like? What do you like doing?
Well, yeah, they still living at home. They're going to university and stuff. And this last year was the first year that we didn't have a kid in high school, because they played all the school sports and stuff. And it was always like every weekend we were at a tournament, and it was busy, but we loved it, right? And so it was really odd to not be doing all of that. But we've kind of settled into things during the quarantine. We got spent a lot of time with them. We camp with them as well, and we're one of the few families that actually enjoys board games, so we do that a lot.
Oh no, I love board games. They're wonderful. Monopoly is our thing.
Oh yeah, we're more of a Scrabble.
Oh yes.
And Pictionary kind of family.
Another one I enjoy is Uno. Do you call it Uno or Uno?
Yeah.
Now, with I think using the lockdown as a bit of a segue, if we don't mind, Kristy, I wonder how this is affecting people's physical health and their mental health. Do you have a thought about those sorts of things?
Well, of course, there's we've been calling it the COVID-15. That's similar to the freshman 15.
Yeah.
So everybody going into their quarantine, and they were comfort eating and just hanging out in their pajamas and yoga pants. And then it's like, oh, hey, look at this. I've gained all this weight. And so physically that's kind of there.
Yeah.
I think mentally is more of an issue for most people. That's not exactly my forte, but I've been really disappointed, I have to say, in how the focus of how to, stop this has all been about, like drugs and vaccines and all of this other stuff, instead of letting everybody know that, hey, the best way to stop anything is to have the underlying health. And maybe here's a situation where health is top of mind, that people should be focusing on, making those changes and doing the right things that way. So So that kind of bothers me, that it's like, oh, we got to wait for the vaccine and we're
Yes.
gonna, all of that stuff. And it's like, it's for all intents and purposes, the people with the underlying issues that are having the real problems with it. So
Yeah.
why don't we just get healthier, and then it'll stop all of the pandemics?
Well,
you
here,
know?
therein lies the core of the call that we're going to jump into. But there's a
Mhm.
couple of things I think we should do first to give context for everyone. Kristy, could you share a little bit about, I guess, your pharmaceutical backgrounds, your medical backgrounds, and how are you in your bio? You want to make your work as a pharmacist obsolete. It's an interesting
Mhm.
thing.
Well, it's true. I call myself the Maverick Pharmacist functional medicine health coach. And of course, nobody ever really knows what functional medicine is, so I'll explain. It's basically figuring out the underlying reasons for why you're not feeling your best. And then I basically guide you step by step to fix those, rather than the Band-Aid solution of standard medicine, which is infinitely more effective. And that's why I'm wanting to step away from the pharmacy. I kind of got there through my own health issues, and I don't know if I'll get into all of that, but I kind of discovered how all the stuff that we've been told about how to be healthy and what you're supposed to be doing and what you're supposed to eat and everything else, it's kind of it's not correct. I have all kinds of people coming to me with their healthy diets and their healthy everything else that are feeling poor. And like I said, through my own issues, I'm kind of a research geek, and I started looking into why I was feeling so nasty, even though I was doing all the right things,
Hmm.
and, gaining all this weight and exhausted and all the fun things that people seem to go through. And yeah, I found out this stuff that they just don't tell you in medicine and pharmacy. And when I applied it, all of the issues went away. And that was probably 13, 14 years ago. And I still feel fabulous. So.
I'd love to ask the question. When we look at pharmaceuticals and drug companies creating these drugs that do seem to, I guess, mask a lot of the issues that we face, Kristy,
Right.
what are they actually doing to our cell structures, our metabolism? How are they adversely affecting our bodies?
Oh, well, I mean, don't get me wrong. There is a place for standard
Yep,
medicine,
yep.
right? Like, I'm not one of those anti-drug people.
Hmm.
They've saved a lot of lives. There's all that kind of stuff, right? But to me, I feel like they're better for like acute care, things that are happening right now.
Yep.
We've really kind of dropped the ball on preventive care. So we call somebody's blood pressure goes high. We say, oh, here, take this pill, and that's preventive health care. Or, oh, your cholesterol's too high, you got to take this pill and bring it down, right? Instead of like stepping back to find out why it's high in the first place and fixing that, and why is that cholesterol there in the first place, and all the inflammation that undergoes stuff. Because the issue is, by the time you start having symptoms, more than 80% of the damage has already been done, right? So trying to come back from that is a little bit difficult.
Yes,
I don't think I
absolutely.
answered your question. As far as the medicine goes, it's something that your body has to deal with. It's a foreign thing, right?
Hmm.
So the
Hmm.
immune system kind of gets in there. Usually the liver is like your big filter organ. And so it's having to deal with that. And then some of the breaking of down of those drugs can cause their own issues, because when a drug gets broken down, it gets broken down to other little pieces, and sometimes the little pieces can cause some issues. And of course, everybody knows the side effects and all that other stuff.
Hmm.
But basically, if a drug's doing something and it's not natural, like I feel like the way your body works is, you should be focusing more on the, nutrients and foods and things like that your body's meant to use. But if a drug's actually doing something, it means it's kind of changing the way your body would normally be doing stuff. So then that can interfere with other things like the statins, the cholesterol drugs.
Yep.
Most people don't know like that. Yes, it stops your body from making so much cholesterol, but a couple of steps back, it's also stopping your body from making coenzyme Q10, which is a really good antioxidant and necessary for creating energy. So yeah,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
it's,
yeah. No,
you get the
I
good
can
with the bad, right?
I can imagine we could spend hours trying to
Oh God,
unwrap
yeah.
all of these. You talked about being a research geek, and I can only imagine the time that you have spent doing this great work to help people. Now, one of the things that made me feel a lot better about aging is the fact that you say on your about page, if you learn nothing else from me, remember this: don't let anyone blame your health issues on getting older. Talk to me about that, because a lot of times we often associate the aging process with I'm breaking down and it's too late for me.
Mhm.
Can people turn their
Right.
lives around and change their, I guess, their mindset around this?
Yeah, and I think that's the key. Like it's what I'd like to say is just because it's common doesn't mean it's normal. So it's common to have the aches and pains. It's common to have, some dementia and start forgetting things. And, it's common for the weight to kind of creep on and to be a bit more tired and blah, blah, blah. But if your body is working the way it's supposed to and it's got everything that it needs to do what it's supposed to do, it's designed to heal and repair itself, and it should be doing that. Sometimes it goes a little bit slower, but it still happens. And really, I mean, you should feel amazing right up until you slide into the grave. I mean, that's the way it was meant to be. So,
Yeah, I what's a baseline for somebody if I feel okay, I'm alive? What? How do we get a baseline? Do we do it from a holistic health standpoint, or do we actually need the assistance of medical
um,
tests, or how do we go about it?
I don't think it's not necessarily like if you're. I think the thing what happens, like I said, the by the time that you're starting to feel symptoms, 80% of the damage is done.
He's done.
But if you're the problem is it comes on so gradually, it kind of becomes your new normal. So you don't really realize it. And that was kind of the situation for me. I'd have to say, like, I thought I was the healthiest person around
Mm-hmm.
until all of a sudden my knees were aching all day and I was, 30 pounds overweight and all this other stuff that wasn't going away and exhausted, right?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
if you'd asked me, and it's not till you sort of look back after you've kind of made the changes and are feeling better that you sort of realize, kind of what a mess you were to begin with, because it really is innocuous. And it depends, and I fear that, it's starting younger and younger. And
Yes.
people like really our youth are extremely, and
Sedentary.
there's tons of reasons for that.
Yeah,
Again,
yeah.
we could talk about it for a whole hour, but um, yeah, like it's just, what was it, 10 years ago, 5 years ago? I think it was even 10 years ago, where the life expectancy of kids born today, like for the first time in history, the life expectancy is getting less
Oh wow.
instead of,
More.
like it always, however many years ago it was like 40, then it was 50, and then, it's
Yep,
been going
yep.
up, and now it's getting smaller.
I would like to, if we could, using the 80/20 rule, talk about I guess, the top 20% of reasons that we are seeing a decline in, I guess, mortality. Um, do you think that our world environment, the places we live, the technology we use, affecting this? What are some of your thoughts around that?
Well, for sure, the amount of chemicals and toxins that are getting into the environment is a big problem. And that's part of why it's getting shorter, because our bodies are needing to deal with so much toxin. Like
Mm-hmm.
stuff comes in and the body's got to get rid of it, right? And even like 50, 60 years ago, we used to, test people for levels of BPA, like the bisphenol A or whatever, right? And if it was there, it was like, oh my gosh, well, you better. And now that would be pointless because everybody's got BPA.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's, and like I said, that's becoming a new normal, which is kind of a problem. I won't speak on the EMFs and the technology part
Yep.
because it's on my list of things to kind of look into. There's some really interesting um, information about that. And but I'm kind of a critical reviewer, so I want to see where the studies are and make sure they're good studies before I make an opinion on it. But I don't. It concerns me that we're basically it's a big experiment and we don't really know where it's going. I mean, you can't go anywhere without Wi-Fi now, so you're just constantly exposed, right?
Yeah,
And some people for sure have a sensitivity to it because they'll turn it off and they'll feel better. But whether it's everybody or, and where that goes, hard to say, right?
it's very important that we have analytical minds like yourself sitting there doing the hard yards in terms of the research. Thank you very much for all that work. I'd love to, if we could, please talk about nutrients and how to work towards our ideal body. I like drinking occasionally, but I also like water. Um, let's start there. What's our diet? What should it look like comparatively speaking?
Well, I mean, and I would say that's probably the number one thing. If somebody was going to change something, it would be to change up their food choices.
Yeah.
Actually, there's two things, and I'll get to that. But the standard American diet, which is just the Western diet, I just like saying that because it shortens to SAD, and that truly is what it is. But basically, a Western diet, I mean, I don't think it comes as a surprise to anyone that that's not healthy. But the diet that we've been told our whole lives is healthy. Even, they've revamped stuff. Some of it's a little better. Like, it's just not. It's very inflammatory, which is the underlying cause of pretty much every issue. It interferes with proper bowel function, which I know isn't a sexy topic, but
No.
it's often the underlying cause of your issues. So super important. And it really is the cause of type 2 diabetes and obesity. It makes your body store fat. And it also makes you tired. And that's why people feel like they need a nap at 2 in the afternoon. And it causes more cravings, makes you hungrier. And so people think they don't have willpower, they're emotional eaters or whatever. And all of those are just from our so-called healthy diet. But it's a whole re-education though, because we got people eating all this food that they should be avoiding and avoiding all this food that they really should eat more of, right? And
Yeah.
so, we don't really have time to get too far into it. Definitely, there's way too much carbs. I'm not saying that keto is the answer. I don't think it is.
Mm-hmm.
But, the starchy carbs and the processed food, it's just instant sugar. And that's why type 2 diabetes is an epidemic. That was another 10 or 15 years ago where the World Health Organization said that declared type 2 diabetes an epidemic. It's the only non-infectious disease that is that way.
Amazing.
So, and it's just because of the way we eat. So, and it's just a different way. Like once because it doesn't mean you can't eat the foods that you love. I mean, that's not sustainable, right?
Yeah.
I'm probably the most realistic health coach you'll ever meet because I always say there's room for wine and cheesecake and a healthy stuff, lifestyle, right? But the other part about the food is that it's no longer physically possible to get all of the nutrients that your body needs just from the foods that you're eating, even if you're eating a perfect diet. So tons of reasons for that we won't go into, but, like 70, 80 years ago, sure, but it's not anymore. And so then it means, taking a good quality supplement becomes a necessary part of having excellent health too, because like I said, your body's got all these functions that it needs to do. And usually the vitamins and the minerals kind of get used up with each step of that. And if there's not enough there to do it, then it's kind of just doing the bare minimum. And that's when the repair doesn't happen and the inflammation keeps up. And then you get that cumulative, aches and pains and, symptoms of aging, right?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Absolutely. This is wonderful feedback. Thank you so very much. I always like to take a bit of a look into, I guess, your daily routine. And so people can look at you and say, well, look, you're the coach. What does a day look like for you?
Well, I am at the 80-20 rule. It took me sometimes getting to when you're feeling good is a
Yeah.
little bit more, but
Yep.
I definitely have a handful of vitamins a couple times a day,
Mm-hmm.
which people are more like, but I'm like, you know what? It's you got to think of it as concentrated food. It's not pills. It's not
Yep.
medications, right?
Yep. Yep.
So yeah, but generally I start my day with the protein shake.
Yep.
And not any specific one. I just get a good quality protein powder and throw in some good olive oil or coconut oil or, maybe a handful of berries or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And that is that. Sometimes once in a while, I'll actually skip breakfast. I can do the intermittent fasting, which is
Mm-hmm.
a decent thing, but not good for everybody. So
Yep. Yep.
it definitely does. And then, so it's a lot of meat and vegetables, I would have to say. Because
Yep.
then my lunch is usually salad with some nuts on it and some olive oil or something, and lots of vegetables that way. And then supper is kind of my husband does do a lot of the cooking because my nights are kind of late, so starting when I get home would be crazy. But and plus now he's retired, so he has time to cook.
He's got
But
some time.
exactly. And so he's pretty good about, like, and he feels better. Like, I was kind of like, geez, we can't have these big things of pasta and this other
Enjoy
stuff.
a
And
bit.
so, yeah, so just having, yeah, it's mostly meat and vegetables, lots of water. Like,
Yep.
I haven't had a drink of water, and since we've started this, it's almost killing me.
Well, feel
Like, I
free to
just
have one.
have it by the workspace and I just drink, you know, herbal teas, stuff like that.
It's
So,
very underrated water, isn't it? We see
oh,
so much rubbish. I mean, at 5 tablespoons of sugar per 500 milliliters of carbonated water. I mean, it just simply
oh,
can't be good for you. Some of these drinks that
oh
you
my
see.
gosh, yeah.
Uh, and now, in terms of, I guess, your physical movement of your body, do you advocate physical activity? Because I would love to break down these 5 elements to living a better life and having a great body.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Like, exercise is a part of, like, we were meant to move. It's only been the last 150 years that we're not moving all day, every day, right?
Yep,
We
sedentary.
were farming and doing all that stuff. And
Yep.
so the more, and so there's exercise and there's moving, right? So I just tell, like, walking, like anything that's getting you up and moving or whatever. I have, I think stand-up desks, or I have a treadmill desk. Those are awesome. Most people are kind of in the fight or flight, stressed out sort of situation. The more you walk, the more that lowers the stress. So if you can manage to do that, that's awesome. I find the exercise depends on the person, but for most people, like 20, 20 to 30 minutes, 3 times a week of more intense, like,
And
exercise.
sweating.
That's all you need. The hour long classes and stuff, for a lot of people, especially if you're having some adrenal issues, like, it's too much.
Yeah, yeah.
And strength training, most people do not do, like, just going on the treadmill, going on just doing cardio stuff all the time. I mean, you need it, like, maybe once a week, but I would, if you're only doing 3 times a week, I would do strength training in between there for the other 2 times, because after about age 30, your muscles start disappearing.
Yep.
And so you need to you don't use it, you lose it, kind of thing, right?
Well,
And that's a big part of keeping you from not falling and breaking a hip when you're older, from setting your metabolism so that you're not just slowly gaining that weight. That happens a lot for people
yeah, it's one
because
thing
they
you don't
do.
often think about all of these things. I thought cardio and you just moving your body would be enough, but I certainly didn't think about the need to put, that resistance training into the daily program. So that would be something to look at. Thank you so very much for sharing. Now, Kristy, I wonder, what's enough sleep for somebody every day to help this healing process?
Yeah, well, I mean, minimum, it varies from person to person, which is why 8 hours is like the average, because
Yeah,
7 to 9 hours the is perfect, right?
yeah,
So, and most people can figure out if they're, if you're getting 7 hours of sleep every night and you're dragged out by the end of the week, well, then you're clearly not a 7-hour person, right?
yeah, yeah.
So that's not rocket science to figure that one out. But I find with people, the going to sleep in a normal time is the issue, right? So it is true that the most restful sleep happens between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. for on average, right?
Yeah,
For
yeah.
the circadian. So if you're crawling into bed at midnight, 12:30 or whatever, you're missing a lot of that repairing sleep. And then the mental stuff happens kind of between two for the rest of the night sort of thing, right? But that physical repair is happening at the beginning of that. And then so that's how people get kind of burnt out, and and so some of my clients, I'll be like, you know what, maybe you need to set your alarm to go to bed, you know?
Now that's an interesting thought.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's it flips it on its head. I've not thought of that. There you
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. I wonder, you've talked about clients, when somebody does want to reach out to you, because there's just so much to unpack here that we would need 6 to 8 hours just to get through some of it, I suspect.
For sure.
When they want to, I guess, work from you, learn more about themselves, and meet that ultimate objective of having a healthy, energized lifestyle with a body that they're happy with, what's the process that you actually take them through?
Mm-hmm. Well, I have a couple different programs. I have an online program,
Mm-hmm.
which is perfect for COVID, because you basically just go through at your own pace, and it's the myth busting of that general information that kind of every human being needs to know to be healthy. It's like what the right food choices are, what the right exercise is, how to do it, how to fit it in, how to choose a good supplement so that you're getting the vitamins. So we talk about stress and sleep and toxins and all of that stuff, right? And it's very like bite-sized pieces. So, you got 50, and it just starts where you left off. So you got 15 minutes to do that and carry on. So that's kind of something for everybody. And you can get that on, just sign right up on the website. There's also a Facebook group that you can, then you get access to me for questions, and then it's a little more personalized.
Yeah.
I have if you do the coaching program, if you feel like, you have a little bit of unusual stuff, there's a coaching program available with it also that you can't get any other time. So if you do it, then you get 2 coaching sessions with me whenever you feel like you need them. And then that's just a really good way to kind of tune in some of the food issues, and because sometimes not every food is good for everybody. So it's just a good way to personalize it without going to the full one-on-one coaching, which is what I do often. I probably do that, a lot. I have many clients where, it's just, so if you've got like hormonal issues, if you've got gut issues, if you've pretty much tried all of this stuff and figured it out on your own and you're still dealing with issues, then there's something else going on. So doing the intensive, where I'm looking into your symptoms and background and history, and we work together over 6 months to really dial it in and get it fixed, and then you're good to go.
Fantastic. Now,
So that's kind of that.
I'd love to know, what is the website that people will be visiting to start this process with you?
So it's kristyrusshealthcoaching.com. So you got to spell Kristy Russ right.
Yep.
And or you can actually just go in kristyruss.com will get you there too. And so, because it's so much to get into, if you go there, there's a green bar there and there's a free masterclass. And I really delve into the 5 things and give, a lot more usable information that you can kind of walk away with right away. So I highly recommend doing that. And then it really kind of opens your eyes about the difference that you need to do, kind of the principles that I'm focused on, and then and then you can get in touch with me.
Yep, thank you so very much. I've actually spent some time going through your website. It's wonderful. That it's rich and full of content. It's a very vibrant site, and it will certainly be a great starting point for everybody who's on the show today. Now, if you want to touch base with Kristy, visit. I will be making the domain URL available no matter where you see this interview. And with all that being said, Kristy, I've learned so much in such a very short amount of time. Thank you so very much for spending some time with me on the My Future Business show today.
Perfect. Thanks very much.
Thanks for joining us today. If you enjoyed the call, then make sure to subscribe, leave a comment, share us with your friends, and book your spot on the show at myfuturebusiness.com/interviews. And if you're looking for solutions that will help grow your business, then visit myfuturebusiness.com/shop.